are going to continue our study this evening about hospitality. This morning, we considered Jesus' teachings, Jesus' examples when it comes to hospitality, how that should influence our thinking and participation in hospitality. Tonight, we want to consider the apostles' encouragement, what they taught regarding hospitality, what the early church practiced, and then to wrap it up, what does it mean for us? What should we be doing? I ran across a neat statement when I was studying for this, and it was hospitality is less about the table and more about the heart around it. Too often we make the issue the table, and that we can't have hospitality unless it meets a certain criteria. Unless we have so much to offer, we can't be hospitable. Unless we have such a nice house, we can't be hospitable. And so what happens is a lot of us end up showing no hospitality at all because we have convinced ourselves that we're not capable of it. I want to see what the early church did in Acts chapter 2. This is right when the church started. I want to begin there and seeing how the church, what they thought about hospitality. In Acts chapter 2, beginning in verse 42, this is after 3,000 had responded to the apostles' teaching on the day of Pentecost. It says, those that had received the word, they continued steadfastly in the apostles' doctrine and fellowship and the breaking of bread and in prayers. Then fear came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were done through the apostles. Now all who believed were together and had all things in common, and sold their possessions and goods, and divided them among all as anyone had need. So continuing daily with one accord in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, they ate their food with gladness and simplicity of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved. We should not be so quick to write off the actions of the early church because they lived in a different time and a different culture and say, it doesn't work for us. It's not the same for us today. Sure, Jerusalem was a centrally located area. The church was in proximity much closer to each other than what we may be today, kind of far-flung here and there and everywhere. That doesn't mean we don't have the responsibility. It means we got to work harder to meet it. That we have to put in more of an effort to make sure we're doing what we need to do. What I am especially impressed with in this context is it said they were going from house to house, they were sharing with each other, they were engaging in this together, they were finding pleasure or favor with men. One of the verses we looked at today was Jesus saying, others will know you follow me when you have love for each other. And what do we see? We see the people who observed the church saw something different. And it was something good because of how they were interacting with each other, because of how they were spending time together. There is a difference in meeting a requirement because you think it is a have to and doing something because it's enjoyable or because you want to. And people will see that difference. People will know when you are meeting an obligation versus this is who I am. This is what I want to be. This is who I love. When that is our motivation, people will take notice. And it will have an impact. Did the church here in Acts chapter 2 get together, spend time together because it was in keeping with the apostles' doctrine? They had to do it, so we're going to meet together and eat together and do all this together? I don't think so. I think by the response people had to their activity, it's because they wanted to. They desired to. Our desire should be much the same. Our goal should be expanding fellowship from the foyer to the table, where we might know each other here in this context. But do you know what your brother or sister goes through Monday through Saturday? We're not going to unless we actually know each other. And it begins with hospitality. I want to consider what Paul said in Romans chapter 12. We see the early church practicing in hospitality. In Romans chapter 12, beginning in verse 9, this is what Paul says: let love be without hypocrisy. Don't let it be fake. Abhor what is evil, cling to what is good. Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love and honor, giving preference to one another. Not lagging in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord. Rejoicing in hope, patient in tribulation, continuing steadfastly in prayer, distributing to the needs of the saints, given to, or some translations say, practicing hospitality. That is a full plate of righteous living. From verse 9, he says, let love be without hypocrisy. Well, how do you do that? From 10 on. From verse 10 on. By doing what Paul says. That's how you know love is coming from a genuine source and is not some show or some mask that you have put on. It's easy to say, I love you, but does it really mean it when you don't do these things that are listed here? Kindly affectionate, giving preference to one another, fervent in spirit, rejoicing in hope, patience. And he says, practicing hospitality. What did Paul expect Christians to do? Be hospitable towards one another. Peter expected the same over in 1 Peter chapter 4. 1 Peter chapter 4. Beginning in verse 8, he says, and above all things have fervent love for one another, for love will cover a multitude of sins. Be hospitable to one another without grumbling. As each one has received a gift, minister it to one another as good stewards of the manifold grace of God. If anyone speaks, let him speak as the oracles of God. If anyone ministers, let him do it as with the ability which God supplies, that in all things God may be glorified through Jesus Christ, to whom belong the glory and the dominion forever and ever. Amen. You have two of the strongest pillars of the church, Peter and Paul, both saying, be hospitable. Both saying hospitality is an expectation of Christians. That's something that we are to be about. And he says, I love how he describes it. Going back to a point we made in this morning's lesson, it's not that we get something in return. It's not because we want to look good or to impress, but it's all to the glory of God. We do what we do because He's done what He's done. That includes hospitality, being in each other's lives. Remember, that's how we defined hospitality this morning. Yes, it involves homes, but it's an invitation to be in each other's lives, to be with each other, to know each other. How do we expect to walk this road together if we don't know each other? Or if we just have random passings? Like meeting somebody at Walmart. Oh, hey, how you doing? Good. Have a good day. Right? And then you go about your business. Brethren, many times that's how we, the church, are like when it's only Sundays. We're not going to be able to withstand anything if that be our mentality. The church practiced it. The apostles taught it. Jesus taught it. How do we do it? First we got to get rid of all the excuses that we have. We make a lot of excuses to try to justify not doing something. How about the excuse, well, my house is just too small. I don't have room to entertain. Brother, I tell you, I've got a smaller house and I've got 6 people in it, and I know what it's like to not have room. So does that mean I am now exempt from hospitality? No. Because hospitality is not limited to a place. You say, well, I don't have the room for it. That might be. I'm not saying that your house isn't small, okay? What I'm saying is use some place that isn't. We've got facilities right here. We've got a big area over there. We've got a smaller, more intimate area over here. You can say, hey, I'd love to be able to have lunch with your family and my family, get together, have lunch. Why don't we plan that for next Sunday afternoon? Is that hospitality? You better believe it. Just because they're not pulling up to your driveway and wiping their feet on your mat does not mean it's not hospitality. It's about the spending time together, the invitation to be together. Don't let the excuse of I have a small house be the reason that you don't show hospitality. Well, maybe you have the room, but it's a cluttered house. I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. No one cares that you live life. Houses get messy. Houses get disorganized. Again, just come to my house. If you are waiting for that day when your house is pristine and perfect to have somebody over, it will never come. So you know what? Invite them over. Move the laundry to the other end of the couch if you have to and say, have a seat. That might be what we have to do to be hospitable. But saying, well, my house is not perfect, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, the kids' rooms are a mess. I've never once had Zach or Kris or anybody else over and first thing they do is walk into the kids' room and inspect it. Now, how does this look? No one does that. And we have this false assumption that we have to impress people with our hospitality. That we have to appear to be something that we're not. I tell you, my life ain't all put together, so you shouldn't expect my house to be either. And so when I invite you over, you're going to see some of the messes. Which is good, because with hospitality, we need to see the messes in each other's lives too. And when we sweep everything up and we make everything look nice and tidy, and we tell the kids, don't move a muscle until they leave, are we really letting people in? You know what? That's going to lead to us putting up those facades and not letting people get close to us, and not being inviting to get close to others, where people aren't going to want to open up about their problems, about what they feel is heavy in their life, about their issues, because you look like you've got it all put together. But they don't see the duct tape and zip ties in the background, do they? Let people see you living life. Hospitality is not about the impression or the surroundings. It's about the connection that we make with others. This plays right into it. You don't have a fancy spread? Chips and sandwiches fill me up all the same. You don't have to have a 5-course meal on the good eating china in order to have hospitality. In fact, I would prefer, if you're going to invite me and my family over, I would prefer that you don't. Because I'm going to be afraid that I'm going to break a plate or something like that. You pull out the good stuff with my family, you're rolling the dice, okay? I would much rather come over, sit down on your couch, and have a bologna sandwich on a paper plate with a handful of chips. And be able to sit there and actually get to know each other, spend time together, invest in each other, instead of worrying about, am I eating with the right fork? Now, I know that's an extreme. But brethren, we can sometimes take it that far to where we start justifying us not doing what we're supposed to do. To where we say, I don't have, a nice crock pot meal. I haven't slaved over the kitchen all day to make this. Ask them to put their sandwich together themselves. They won't care. I promise you. Hospitality, people want to invest in you. They want you to invest in them. I cannot recall one time that I was invited somewhere just on a random Friday or whatever. And the only thing I can remember about that experience is, how fancy the food was. What I remember is the conversations that were had. The connections that were made. Yes, even the tears that were shared. Because that's what hospitality is about. Don't worry about having the fancy stuff. Don't even necessarily worry about taking on the responsibility to feed them. Money can be tight. We can have enough to feed our family. Maybe we don't have a lot of extra to offer. Do you know that if you asked a family here, hey, we would really love to spend some time with you. Could you come over Sunday night after church? Just us and our family, pick up some fast food on your way over, bring whatever. Nobody's going to look at you and say, well, that's beneath me. I'm too good for that. You're inviting me over, I expect to be treated in a certain way. People are going to say, what time? I would love to do that. Let's not be making excuses. How about the excuse that I don't have time for it? Simply put, make it. Oh, I'm just too busy to be hospitable to others. As you sit there watching the game on TV. I don't have time to have brother so-and-so over or sister so-and-so over. I've got so much to do. Scrolling. You see, we have time. We just don't want to admit that it's already allocated to something else. Remember we said this morning, hospitality isn't always convenient. And it might be that watching the game in and of itself, even spending some time on social media in and of itself, sometime isn't wrong, okay? But when we let that kind of stuff be the crutch that keeps us away from doing everything else that we're supposed to do, it's a problem. It is a problem. Well, I just don't have time to be like the church in Acts. Every day, I don't have time for that. Again, it's the principle that applies to us. Making time. How many people look at their schedules more than a day out, typically? Most people do. Some people maybe a week at a time. Some people, depending on what you're going on, you may sit down. I know Tiffany tries to do this. She sits down at the beginning of the month and she lines out everything that she knows is already scheduled. Appointments and homeschool co-op and all that kind of stuff. The things that we know about, we know what's going to happen there. Are there going to be other things come up? Oh, absolutely. But we have an idea of what our schedule is going to be like. Do you have to devote every spare minute of every day to this? No. Pick a day a month just to get started. And say, I don't really have anything that night. I'm going to invite somebody over. And we're going to have, chili and crackers, whatever. Do that. Start there. If it's convenient to do it here, then get together and do it here. Because we shouldn't be saying, oh, it's too far. Nobody wants to come to my house, it's too far. Get over it. Plain and simple. If living a godly, righteous life is important to you, then we will find ways to do that which we must. Even if it means it's a little inconvenient for our worldly schedules. I've driven over an hour for stuff a lot less important than hospitality. I've driven over an hour for nothing before. Just to turn around and come back. We cannot use our distance away from each other as a barrier from hospitality. This ties in with the first one. Small house, your house is too far away, use facilities here. We've got a calendar, a schedule on the back bulletin board, typically 2-3 months up at a time. Get with a family and plan a Sunday where you're going to spend some time having lunch together and fill it in. And you know what? If 2 families or 4 families want to do it that day, we've got 2 kitchens that can be used. But most of the time, it's always available. So make good use of it. Let's not be making excuses that say, I don't have to do it because of this. That wasn't the mentality of Jesus. That wasn't the mentality of Peter or Paul or the early church. I do not believe that ever once they were looking for a way to not do something. They were looking for ways in which to do it. That should be our mentality. How can I do this? How can I make this work? How can I be more engaged? Instead of, well, that excuses me from it. That excuses me from it. As Christians, we need to eat together. We need to pray together. We need to learn together. Friends, we need to live together. And I know that sounds kind of funny. I had already sent this off. I was looking it over this afternoon. I said, you know what? I shouldn't have put live together. That could be taken a whole different way that I don't want it to. Live life together is what I mean. Not that we become some commune, right? That's not what I mean. But do life together. This is the only one we have. This is the chance that we have right now. And we want to spend more time around the world than we do each other. It doesn't make sense. We want to let worldly things conquer and demand our time and our schedule versus things that are good and wholesome and pure. It doesn't make sense. Hospitality. It's not a slogan that we say, it's a space we create. There was a motel chain that was known for their slogan at the end of their commercials and TV ads, we'll leave the light on for you. Motel 6. Stayed at a Motel 6 a couple times. I wish I had turned the light off. Let's just say It did not meet expectations. The fella sounded all nice and polite and warm on the radio ad. Rent a room at the Motel 6, no thank you. You see, it was a slogan. It's what they were known for. I'm not throwing all of them under the bus, just the ones I went to. But it was a slogan for them. How many things have just become slogans for us? That we say it, but we don't do it. That we affirm it, but we don't live it. Christianity is not a slogan. It is a way of life. And because it is a way of life, it has expectations. And because we serve a great God, those expectations become our desires when we maintain the proper heart, when we have the proper outlook. I want to encourage everyone this week, make room and time for your brothers, your sisters, and others. There is not a pattern that I am saying we must follow. It will be different for every family, for every individual that is involved. It will vary from time to time. The point is, do it. Make sure it's done. I would love to have to plan out, because I wanted to use the facilities here, something for a month because everybody else has already signed up. That would be a fantastic problem to have, wouldn't it? Don't be so worried that the laundry is still on the couch or that the sink is full of dishes, or that we're having bologna and cheese sandwiches. Nobody cares about those things. What they care about is you. And what you should care about is them. Not the impression that we're making, but the connection that we're establishing. Let's make room and time for each other. Remember the words of Jesus. Others will know that we are disciples of His because of the love we have for each other. And that starts by being in each other's lives. Knowing who each other are. And having that invitation extended to each other of let's get to know one another. Let's be hospitable this week. And making connections and building relationships that go beyond the lovely discussions and times that we have here. That's good, that's needed, absolutely. But it should not be here only.